Welcome to Treasure Talks. Today I've got former Commonwealth and former British middleweight champion Tommy Langford. How you doing, mate? It's been a while.
I'm good, not too bad.
Now, I just asked you a question before we started recording. I've got to start with that. Former British middleweight champion, but will we see you fight again?
Nah, mate, nah, I don't think so, mate. I don't, I just think it's been too long now. For even if a opportunity come back through the door, whether I'd get, would I get into good enough shape or not? Would I even be able to do it now in terms of the time frame to train and whatever? Like things have become more important in terms of like my life, my kids, all the rest of it. They're more important now than myself in terms of I ain't got that selfishness to go to the gym and and sod everything else and just go down and box. You have to have that in you to do boxing. So I think it's passed me by really, but there's still an itch. Do you know what I mean? I still want to have a fight. Like I was even speaking the other day about to my mate, like about the possibility of doing amateur stuff again. Can I just go back and have amateur fights? Like I'm just have a fight, like. And he said I could do it. You're allowed to do it now. So
Oh,
I mean,
you're allowed. I didn't know you was allowed to do that. I heard before that you could have so many and then turn back, but you can actually go back into the amateur ranks now, can you?
apparently what he said you could. So I don't know, but it might be something that it might not be the last time I'm in the ring. I might do it for, might just get in the ring and have a 3 round scrap with somebody at some point, just for a laugh. I know that sounds mad saying for a laugh, but just for a laugh, like.
Yeah, I think once you've got that fire, it's hard to sort of, use it anywhere else, isn't it? Boxing's like very unique, and a lot of people don't see what you put in. Obviously, I've only seen snippets of it, but I've seen you training in the gym and stuff, and it must, like you say, the selfishness. Like, how much did that come into it when you started, when you were boxing?
Mhm. Boxing's like the easiest way to. Boxing's a sport that you need to be a young man, a single man, and have no family, and it's very very like when I say no, I mean like no wife and kids. It's very difficult. Like don't get me wrong, I've been married. I've been with the same, my partner, my wife. I've been with her since the whole time I've been boxing. So she's just very understanding and of the way it's always been. But when I was like when I before we had kids, nothing got in the way of boxing. Like everything was moved around boxing, including holidays, honeymoons. Everything was moved around my fights. Obviously, that was paying the wages, it was understandable. But when I got to the point that I had kids and I didn't want to be like I was working. And my last couple of years of fighting, I was working as well. So I was working on site for 10 hours, and then I was going to the gym, and I wasn't seeing the kids really all day. And so you're like, it's not it's not really, and the money's not warranting it. The opportunities and the money isn't warranting doing that. So it didn't make sense to me to be doing it anymore. Like if I was earning loads of cash, you'd say, well, do you know what? I can deal with it. I can put up with that. Like it's going to make a better life for the future. But it wasn't really doing that. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
not.
that that's a big thing. I think you have to have that in you when you're younger, when you're fighting. You have to be able to just say, nah, sod everything else. Like it don't matter about where I live, what I do. Boxing is the only thing that matters to me. And for a long, long time, that is what it was for me. Like there was nothing else to come in the way of that. Um, until you have kids, you get married, and then you've got something else to worry about. Then you've got something else to on your mind all the time, thinking about how you're gonna. And you have children. I've got 2 kids, and then you got 2 things to worry about. 2 extra things to think about, and how you're gonna support them, and are you gonna be there enough, and do you want all this sort of stuff. So when you lose that ability to just put everything to the one side and be selfish for yourself, then I think you kind of on the way out really. And I had that the last sort of year or so when I was still fighting. I was kind of thinking of is this right for me? Like, is this right anymore? Like, is it worth it anymore? You know. So I think when you start getting feelings like that, you've got to be truthful to yourself really, and say like that's it really. It's
Yeah,
hard to say.
I think once you've got one foot out the door, even if you're thinking about, you know, an exit strategy or other things to worry about, boxing's just so much different to other sports where it's hard to do that still. But you still, like we just said before the recording, you're getting back involved with boxing. I know you did. I think you did a bit of punditry before on BT Sport as well, didn't you? And now you've got your own podcast.
Yeah, I've done a bit of punditry with like Box Nation and BT Sport and that, and then and it's always been something I've quite enjoyed doing. I've always quite enjoyed talking about fights, and I feel like I know it. You know, I can see quite a lot of things in fights that other people can't see and stuff. So I've done a bit of coaching as well down Hall Green, and I'd still do that, but obviously with the lockdown means we can't do it. I mean, and then I got invited by Southwest Boxing Media to jump on the podcast with them, and I was like, you know, I'm happy, and you know, I quite enjoy doing it every week. So and especially at the moment, we're not able to see or speak to any. You know, it's quite nice to be able to talk to have different conversations than about electrics at work. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. Be able to get back into the boxing. I want to go back as well to your amateur record and how you got into boxing, because I think we met when you were still amateur, and I wrote a few pieces back then. I don't know if you remember, like for your debut.
I remember you buying them. I remember you doing them. Yeah.
No, I was looking for your record, your amateur record. I just want to take like a guess at it, see if I can remember it. But I'm sure didn't you amass over 100 fights? Wasn't it like 107 or something that you had?
Close, mate. 106. Very close.
I had that on the top of my head, and I thought I'm going to have a guess. I was looking for it, but yeah, not bad. But that was a ridiculous record, isn't it? Because I always say to people, like the amateurs, if you've got a 50-50 record, you're probably a really good amateur, because you should be getting matched with people of the same level. And I remember you had a really good record, didn't you?
Yeah, I had 106 and 186. So like 80-20. So yeah, it weren't bad. Like, it was good. And obviously, I think my only losses, I mean, I lost to a couple of people twice, but my only losses came to like international fighters or national champions. So, you know, it was, you know, it was a good, and I still don't think I lost some of them. But it was a good record. But the amateurs, to be fair, I still love the amateurs. Like, if I was involved in boxing now, I haven't really got an interest in being involved in coaching pros or anything. But if I was involved in it now, as like coaching, like to a good, I'd want to do it amateur. I'd want to bring kids through and see them develop. And you know, I think that for me, the amateur days was just, I can't look back on them with any sort of negativity. Everything about the amateurs was great. Like, obviously no one likes losing, but everything about them was great. And so I can't look back on any of those years that I was doing it and think like I shouldn't have done that or I shouldn't have done that. Like, everything about it was brilliant. And so if I could give that to anybody else, or I could encourage anyone to do that, then I'd like to do that really. Like, I think that and I think that we've got a bit of a void at the moment in the amateurs in the UK. I feel like there's been a bit of a drop off, and I think that's especially due to coronavirus in particular in this recent year. But it kind of went that way after the last Olympics. People started just turning over and not staying amateur, and then you had all this white collar stuff coming through and unlicensed fighting, and I think people were earning money doing that rather than, and it's very, very difficult to stay amateur when you're a senior anyway, because the most important thing is a paycheck when you've got your own flat or you've got your own house, whatever. So if you're an amateur as a senior, you're not doing it full time unless you're on GB or, you know, I was fortunate enough. The whole purpose of me getting to Birmingham and getting to university was so I could train virtually full time. And I had that goal, and that's what I managed to do. But if I hadn't have done that, I'd have ended up working, and then work's more important than going to the gym. Then you're knackered for the gym. Then can you get the sparring? Then do you know what I mean? So it's very tricky when you get past a certain age to sort of, you can see the numbers just dwindle off. And I think it'd be nice if I remember we're going back now to when I was a kid. So when I was like 11, 12 years old, I used to go everywhere, drop up a hat, like we'd go everywhere. I'd go everywhere as a spare. Like used to have I don't know if they even do it now, but used to go to club shows as spares. Like you'd go along, like you'd put your kit in a bag and you'd just go along, like your mate was fighting up there, and you'd just go along. They'd say, jump on the scales, see if you've got somebody for you. So you just jump on the scales, and if you weighed in and there was somebody that matched, they'd put you on the show. You'd fit.
I've never heard of that before. Obviously, I was into the amateurs as like a fan, like watching guys around the area. I never knew that was a thing. Like sounds like something from Thailand. They just call you out or something. But
we used to do it all the time. Like me and my mate Griggy, who he runs a bit of a boxing club now, and my other mate Kyle. The three of us used to go everywhere together. If one of us was fighting, then the other two of us would go, and like we'd all support each other, and we'd all just jump on the scale. And if somebody, 9 times out of 10, at least one of us would get a fight. And so then it makes it better for the club, better for you, better for all of you, because you're all fighting. So like we used to do that everywhere, and like anywhere that there was a show. I mean, obviously I lived down in North Devon, so but there was loads of people that did it back then. Like, everyone did it. So you used to get a lot more fights, and that's how I amassed so many fights so quick. And the other thing I was going to say about that, like I've kind of gone way off topic, but when like we're talking about the seniors, like when I was 11, 12 years old, there was a circuit of senior boxers who they all worked full time, but they all boxed and they all wanted to do amateur boxing, and they showed up every show, weighed in, tried to get fights. Like every weekend they'd be going to the same shows to try and get fights. I mean, and they were just honest, like good honest working men that liked to box. But you had that there, and you had that. I think that was nationwide, really. I mean, I can only obviously remember sort of in the southwest area, but you had the same faces. They used to turn. Like, I mean, remember one of them. I think they boxed each other like 5 times, because these two lads boxed each other like 5 times because they just show up and their weights in meet and they go, "Do you want it again? Yeah." Do you know? Because they just wanted to box. And I think that's gone out of amateur boxing to a certain extent. It's all about winning now. It's turning into more about records and projecting yourself. Whereas people just used to do it because they used to love fighting. They used to just love boxing. They used to go and do it. And there wasn't, I remember I got told about turning professional really young. Like, if you turn pro, you better win the ABAs. Like, if you don't win the ABAs, don't do it. Obviously, I didn't win the ABAs, but I won national titles in Box for England. But I got told if you don't win the ABAs, don't even think about it. And now it's changing completely. Like it's going down the route of, do you want to make a bit of money? Turn pro.
Yeah, and it's a shame, really, that you mentioned that this was going on before COVID, but I feel like I've seen that happen with some talented fighters that I've watched grow up, and they're looking to turn pro straight away, and they're putting it down to COVID. But like you say, it's already happening. But you were obviously doing that for the love of the sport. Just going back to that spares thing, because I never knew anything about that. How would that feel when you suddenly was like, right, you're fighting last second? Would you thrive under that? Or because that sounds like a very nerve-wracking thing to do.
I've kind of like training's changed as well. Like training's changed. Like when I was boxing like a kid, and you trained and you just trained to always be ready to fight. So you always had to be on a weight. There was none of this cutting down to weights. I mean, I know they do that now in the amateurs. You make a weight. I mean, I did it in my latter years as an amateur. You go down to a weight, but I was available to fight overweight. Like, but when I was a kid, like they check your weight. like you'd have to always be virtually on weight. But if you were fit, it was more about being fit. So as long as you were fit, they'd take you. And if you were fit and you could get through, if you were fit, you'd go. And then they'd go, basically they'd say, do you want to go and see if you can fight this weekend? And if you didn't want to go, you didn't go. But like I always wanted to go. So you'd go and you'd jump on the scales. And then it was more like you were kind of always looking for, have I got a fight? Rather than nervous about getting one. You'd be looking forward to it. You'd be thinking, oh, I'll fight him. You're looking at the rest of the people weighing in going, he's my weight. I wonder if he's a spare, or I wonder if his fight fell through, or do you know what I mean? You're looking with being eager to fight rather than nervous that you're going to get it, if that makes sense. And because there was never any fear about losing. Like that was never put into you. As a kid, there was never any worry about, don't get me wrong, nobody wanted to lose. But there was never, ever, when I was growing up and boxing, there was never anything put into me about records. Ever. Like if you won them, or you just well done. Do you know what I mean? That's really good. But there was never any emphasis about records. All the emphasis was about fighting and learning. And so you never felt any pressure about going out. You didn't want to lose. Nobody wanted to lose. But you didn't feel any pressure about, oh, what if this kid's really good? What if this kid... You'd just be like, I'll go out and do what I do. Do you know what I mean?
Where do you think that comes from then? Where do you think that suddenly changed, where this record, there's so much attention on the record and no losses?
I mean, I don't know. It obviously stems from the pros. Like, you've got fighters out there, Floyd Mayweather, they're obviously making billions of dollars, not losing, undefeated records, and so much is made of that undefeated record. It didn't used to be like that back in the day. But
do you think as well it's maybe a disconnect from the fans? Because like, I'm a fan of boxing, but I've been around boxers, and I know a fight is a fight, and on any given day, any fighter can win. Do you think there's a bit of a disconnect from fans, and then they make a bigger thing about the just one loss?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely from the viewer's perspective in professional boxing, and obviously professional boxing, the promoters are thinking about viewing potential and box office potential, and so if a fighter's got a loss on his record, it doesn't look as good to them. They can't sell it to the TV as well. It's like, it doesn't matter what level you've lost at. But if someone's carrying a loss and you try and sell them to BT Sport, to Sky Sports, they'll go, I lose the kid who's beat him, and that's kind of, where did he lose and why did he lose and what went wrong with that? And that's kind of on that side. In the amateurs, because it has gone that way in the amateurs, I think amateur kids look at fighters that haven't lost and look at that undefeated thing. But too much emphasis is now made on winning rather than learning. And even with amateur kids, like club shows, I was always told the time for winning is championships. That was what I was always taught as a boxer growing up. The time to win is the championships, winning the championships, and then that's where you concern yourself with winning and nothing else but winning. Don't get me wrong, you always want to win every time you get in the ring, but that was where the goal was, to win the championships. Like you go in with the target of winning the championships, and everything was about that. But then club shows were learning. Like I'd regularly fight people outside of my weights. Like I'd give away free, like 11 years old kid giving away a 3-4 kilo just to get in the ring and fight. And I might have won, lost. I mean, obviously I had a good record, so most of the time I won. But there's other kids that would go and they'd lose, but you'd always see them at the next show. And because and then a lot of those fighters turned into good fighters in the future because they stayed in the sport just because they love boxing. You know what I mean? And I feel like that in the amateurs changed. I also feel that the club I was at in North Devon, and it's a bit different, I have to say, it's a bit different down there. It's a bit different down in the southwest because there's a smaller pool of fighters to fight between. Like there's a smaller amount of competition, so you can't worry about a win or a loss. You can't worry about losing to someone because you might fight them next week, you might beat them. You know, like if you go to every show, which I did, I mean, I fought somebody. I think I fought somebody 5 times from down there when I was a teenager, and I lost him the first time I fought him, but then I beat him the next 4. But we both carried on into adults, and we both turned pro. So it like it's just a different. It's kind of viewed on in a different way. Where the club I started at was like, it wasn't ever any worry about losing anybody, because you get a chance to win you still get a chance in the championships to beat any, you know, you still get them in a 50-50 scenario. I think also things have changed with the way officials look at fighters, and the GB and selectors and all the people from England and all the rest of it look at fighters. If they look at somebody and they've won a national title, they go, yeah, fair enough, he's won a national title. But now they're watching you all the time. So, and the records are all online. They're all on Warrior Boxing. They're all, you know, it's all on there. It's all reported back to England and all the rest of it. So if you've won a national title, but then you don't keep yourself in reserve until the next championships, and you just go, do you know what, so I'm going to fight on a club show, out of weight, but I'm going to fight on a club show, and you lose, then they'll think, well, how did he lose to him? How did he lose to him? His national. They don't think, oh, it's just a club show. It don't matter. You know, it's all learning. He shouldn't be losing to him. He shouldn't be losing to him. He's not international material no more, because he's lost domestically.
Yeah, and then it becomes counterproductive a little bit.
That's the way it's gone. I mean, I remember when obviously being a senior, and I was in there with like Anthony Fowler was my weight, and you know, I fought him and beat him and lost to him, and Callum Smith was my weight, and you know, beat Callum, but there was a lot of us the same sort of weight. But if you I always took fights outside of club, outside of championships, but some of the other fighters didn't fight outside of championships, and I think I was probably one of the only fighters. I might be the last fight that Anthony Fowler had outside of a championship, because I beat him.
So you organised a club bout, was it, with Fowler?
It was on a club show. I got a late phone call. They said that his opponent had fell out, but I want to fight. And I was like, yeah, all right, I'll have it. Like, this is like on the Wednesday, and I was fighting him on the Saturday. And then I went up and I fought him, and I beat him. And then I'm pretty confident that after that fight, the only club shows he ever fought on after that would have been his own home show. And I'm not saying that's because he's worried, but it doesn't do him any good. You know, he's on GB or looking to be on GB and all the rest of it. And then he goes to a club show and loses to somebody who's also competing for those places. He might have lost out there. And that's just because, that's not because of he's not good enough. It's because, you know, I got it right on that night. Like, this is the thing about that level. Like, when you're at that level, you get it a little bit wrong, and the other geezer beats you. But you get it right and you win. And then, so when you're competing at that high level, and then you go to club shows, everyone you're fighting is that level. Like you said about 50-50 records, and you know, if you've got over 50-50 record in the amateurs, it's considered really good. But like, so if everyone you're competing with is of the same level as you, so I was an international, so everyone I was fighting really was international. So you get it just that little bit wrong, one fight that you've travelled up to bloody Newcastle or wherever else it is, and you're a little bit tired, or you're a little bit this, or you get it that bit wrong and you lose. Okay, you might have learned a lot from the fight, but then GB will see that and they'll go, oh, we lost to him. But he's not England, he's not this, he's not that, but he still lost to him. Oh, he's obviously not good enough for international boxing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then I feel it like you lose out on potential fights that could happen and experiences, don't you? Like, these fighters then are too scared to put their neck on the line, if that's what can happen from it.
That's exactly what's happening. That's exactly what's happened. If you're on GB and you get picked to be put on that podium squad, you're protected.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't even go into the ABAs anymore.
Yeah, and
they held up the ABAs, and then they do that Four Nations GB tournament where they put in a seed from GB, and they're the number one seed. So they're still giving a bit of a, a head start on everybody else. But so they do that, and then so they're kept away from that fighting. I mean, I had to fight 6 times to win the Midlands title, just the Midlands, as an amateur. And then, so if you're talking about 6 times, that's 6 times you can get cut, 6 times you can not make the weight, 6 times all these things can go wrong. And that's just to be a Midland champion. And then after that, you've got 4 more fights on top of that to be a national champion. And they're kept out of all that. They're given the bye to the 3 nations or whatever it is, where they fight, so they can just get themselves peak condition for that.
Yeah, and if you think about it, you're saying you have to fight 6 times often. A lot of people won't realise that you're doing that each weekend. So you're training, it's different training when you're fighting every weekend, and then you get to the semi-finals, I think it is, or quarterfinals, and then you fight. Is it consecutive days after that for the ABAs?
Now it is. Now it is. When I done them, they give you a date to get the Midlands done by, and so but you weighed in like a fortnight before that. So I weighed in, and then there was like X amount in my weight, and then you think, Christ, I got to fight 6 times before in 2 weeks. So I fought 6 times in 2 weeks, like within the 2-week period. Like I fought on a Sunday, then I fought on a Wednesday, then on a Friday, then I did the Tuesday, then the Thursday, then the Saturday, then the Sunday again to win the Midlands. And so, but I was on fire. For those 2 weeks, I was flying. And then they went, well, the quarterfinals ain't for another month. So then I've sat on my ass from. Do you know what I mean? Then you dip off, and then you get sluggish and all the rest of it, and then you've got to get yourself back up again for the. So it's rigged against you really, unless you're one of the top ones on GB. It's kind of rigged against you. They don't want to. I feel like a lot of it is the investment in the GB and all the rest of it. They invest in somebody, rightly so. Like I'm not saying any of these fighters aren't deserving. They are, but they're so scared about them being proved wrong that they're not the best one, that they protect them, so that you go, we haven't wasted loads and loads of money on this kid. Like he's worth the money. He's still here. He's still doing this. Whereas if they did what they used to do and opened it back up, so the ABAs, everyone goes in. The winner of the ABAs, they fight in the 4 nations. The winner of the 4 nations, they're on GB. And they're the one that goes to the international squads. So then every year, you've got red hot competitions for the best one. And that no one's exempt from that. And I think I like that way of doing it. I think that's the best way of doing it that's the way they do it in other countries. I mean, I don't know if it's still the same now, but that's the way it was. That's the way it was. And you had red hot competition. I mean, I think the Olympics before my age went, so Anthony Joshua was my age that year, and the one before when Frankie went, I think 2008, the Beijing ones.
Yeah.
Was it 2008? Anyway.
I think so, yeah.
Sure, it was 2008 ones when like De Gale won and all the rest, and then obviously the next ones where Luke Campbell and Joshua and that won in London. Those 2 Olympics have been the most successful ones for boxing for the UK, and we all came through the same ways of fighting. That same pool, that same computer scoring, that same system. We all came through that, and then have turned in and. The game might have changed slightly as they've got to where they are, but they've still been the best fighters and produced the best medals. And then now I feel like it's dipping off. I feel like it's going to dip off again. I don't know that we're going to get that same turnout of international champions and stuff we did before.
That's amazing. That is that when you was talking as well about fighting so many times, like 6 times to win like that, and you think you say amateur, but the way you have to train for that level is ridiculous, isn't it? You obviously moved as well from North Devon to Birmingham. What was behind that decision? Was that just a university thing, or was it to further your boxing?
So I won a couple of national titles when I was down in Devon, and I got selected to go to England and fight for England. And when I was at England, we got to spar with the then Commonwealth team, and that included Frankie Gavin, Jamie Cox, James DeGale, and a few others. And obviously that was a massively successful team. Like, it was literally gold. But in particular sparred with, because I would, believe it or not, I was 60 kilo back then. So I sparred with Frankie and I sparred with Jamie Cox, and like, Cox was strong and he could punch, but I could catch him. And I remember thinking, I can hit him. Like, I can, and I always thought if I can hit somebody, I can find a way. I'm not saying I could have, but at that age, I could have beaten him. But I'm just saying, but then Frankie, I never struggled to hit anybody. I could always hit somebody because I was fast. I could always catch people, and I couldn't hit him. I couldn't hit him. And I remember being like, can't hit this kid. I just could. And he weren't really he weren't battering me. He was picking me off. So I wasn't like, he's giving me a hiding, but I just couldn't get near him. He was like so slippery, man, and his judgment was unreal. And I was like, who is this kid, man? And then when I found out he was about 11 kilo overweight at the time, I was like, oh. And I found out, and I spoke to him. I said, and he said, oh, I'm Frankie. And I was like, what gym do you train at? And he said, Hall Green. I knew that was in Birmingham. Like, I've got family up here anyway, so logistically I knew where it was and that. And then I said, would you be up for doing any sparring outside of camps and stuff? And he said, yeah. And he gave me Tom Cheney's number. And so then I got home and I said to Mum and Dad, I was like, I've got to get to this gym. I've got to get to Hall Green. Like, we'd spoke about a few different gyms because I knew I was at the age where I'd just done my GCSEs. So we were going into A-levels, and I was doing A-levels because I had nothing better to do. And I spoke to I remember at the time of doing the A-level, before I decided, I could have gone into work. Like, I've always been good at sort of like manual work, and a trade would have suited me. I mean, that is what suited me. I'm an electrician now, and I would have been suited to that sort of work straight out of school. And so I was talking about it, and I remember my dad said to me, like, look, if you want to go as far as you can with your boxing, he said, you got to stay in education. He said, as soon as you start worrying about work and going and traveling away and working and all the rest of it, he said, your boxing will become not as important. He said, if you're really, really focused on your boxing, get to uni. So then I was like, okay, I'll do A-levels then. So decided to do A-levels, and it was at that time that I didn't really know which university to go to, and I'd spoke to the England coaches and spoke to people about what gyms they recommended. They'd recommended Repton or Liverpool, and they'd said, you want to get to a city, really, but they mainly spoke about sort of Repton and like the Rotunda in Liverpool, where like Callum Smith and the Smith brothers all were from and stuff. And didn't really mention Hall Green, but then obviously I'd done this sparring, I found out where he's from, and I was like, I can't hit this kid. And then watched the Commonwealth Games, and he was just the standout performer for me. Battered everybody, won gold easy, and I was like, oh, I've got to get there. That's where I've got to train, that gym. So then we phoned up Tom Cheney and arranged to come up and do some sparring with Frankie, and it was just a good fit, really. Like I got on with everybody. You can't not get on with Frankie. Like, he's sound, everyone chats to him. He's like they're his mate. Do you know what I mean? So it was an easy thing to fit into. So then it was just a case of, right, I got to get my A-levels now to get to University of Birmingham. I got them, and then when I was 18, moved up here and then trained there every day and did a little bit of studying.
How different was it moving here compared to Devon? Because I watched a podcast as well not long ago with Frankie saying he pushed someone in a canal or something, and you were there whilst he was running.
He got that wrong. I have been with him when he's pushed someone in a canal. I've also been with him when I've pushed someone in a canal. But But I think he got confused between me and Felix, because I don't know if you remember Felix Kelly. Do you remember Felix used to fight for Hall Green?
I think I've heard of the name. I don't think I would have watched him fight though.
I think where's he from? Where's he from? Is it Kent? He's from Kent originally, and he'd come to university, and he'd started boxing at Hall Green as well. And I think it was actually Felix that was running with Frankie at the time, and Frankie pushed the skis in the canal. Felix would come back, running back up the gym, and went, "Just pushed him in the canal." Like I think it was Felix. I think he got confused because we were both new. We were both new at the time. Like he was obviously from there, and I was from, Devon and that. So, but it's different in it. I mean, I've always had family up here, so it's not really like I'm used to this. I'm used to cities in that respect, and obviously I've been up a lot to watch the Albion and things over my life and stuff. So it's not really. It wasn't as much of a shock as some people might think, but it is a very different environment. Very different environment up here as to down there. I mean, it was amazing to grow up down there. Like it's so free really, and ain't got to worry about anything, and no knife crime, and you know what I mean, none of that. Whereas obviously up here now, it's terrible.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, how going back to Frankie as well? Did you expect him to win a world title? Obviously, that's so often said about him, isn't it? He was that amazing in the amateurs, and he did achieve a lot in the pros as well. You can't forget that. But did you expect him, after what you saw behind closed doors, for him to go on and win world honours?
From what he's capable of, like he could do things like this is mad, like because obviously I know a lot about Frankie. I know a lot about the ins and outs of things. I believe 100% if Frankie got it right. I think there was a few things that happened in his career that derailed it. Really, I feel that, and I think he does really, that he could have competed at low welter. But when he achieved all the titles that he achieved at welter, you can't really say that, can you? Do you know what I mean? Like you can't really say that. So, but I've sparred with Frankie so many rounds, thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds, and then like some days he just did things, and you're like, there's not one other person in the world that could do that. Like it's just unbelievable. He has an unbelievable ability. He still have it now. Like he still have it now. His distance and timing is just, it's always so on point. I mean, that was the thing that towards the end started to go a little bit. But like when he won the Commonwealths and went to the worlds in the amateurs and won the worlds, you couldn't touch him, man. I don't think you could have. You couldn't touch him, man. He was class, like, and he, like I said, he did things that you just couldn't envisage anyone doing. Like I still never understood it, and like I never understood it when I'd spar with him. Like I'm 6'1", and he's like 5'9", and he'd make me fall short, and he wouldn't move his feet, but he'd still catch me, and I'd be like, what? Like I've got longer arms than him, I'm bigger than him, and he's outreached me. Like it didn't make sense, and he hasn't got obscurely long arms either. Like he's not, you know what I mean? So I always felt like he had the ability in him to do it, to achieve a world title. It's a shame that he never got the chance at the right time, I think, or at the right, he never got the opportunity in the right circumstances. But that's not all. There's a lot of things that go into that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, boxing is a lot about timing as well. I was speaking to somebody about that the other day. Like you've got all these different variables, and then timing and the way things pan out also in your personal life at the same time, I can imagine, comes into it, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's a lot. There's. It's like I spoke on a podcast the other week about the mental health in boxing, and there's no real support for it and things, and you're so close to the line. Like you're so close. You're living your life like so close to tipping point all the time. Like people don't, unless you've done boxing and been in that situation where you have to make weight and you're fighting this geezer who wants to punch your head in, and you're fighting for a major title, 12 rounds in front of, you know, in front of a whole country, millions of people and all the rest of it. Until you've been in that scenario and you don't understand what someone's going through who's doing that as well, you just don't get it, and you can't even comprehend to get it, and you can't, unless anyone's been in the situation of professional boxing, they will not understand professional boxing business. You just will not understand it. Like, I try and explain things to my mum and dad when I was doing it, and they were just, I just stopped in the end. I stopped talking about it because you can't. They don't get it. Like, my parents are teachers. They're employed, like, straight-laced, down the line. Do you know what I mean? There's no, and when you tell them what happened, just don't get it. They're like, well, that's not right. That's not right. No, it's not right, but that's boxing. It's not, you know, yeah. And so you live your life. You're so close. I mean, there's not one fighter I know who's not had some. Well, I suppose there are fighters that haven't had mental health issues or haven't had problems or what you'd say depressions and things. But I'd reckon 90%, if you're doing it, there's things there. Like I know from personal experience, there's things there. Like, you know, at times it's hard. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm not saying I'm depressed or anything like this, but I've had it. Like I've had depression, and you find a way of getting around it. But some people aren't so lucky and don't have that way of getting around it, and it eats them up. And then if you have that while you're fighting, it destroys it. Like, I can't see how you could do that sport and train like that and live like that if you've got things beating you up on the inside. I can't imagine how you go through that, you know.
Yeah, it's a good point, because you don't think about that watching as well, and just all the different struggles you must have, because you're preparing for war, really. And then so it's not like now you can finish work and you're finished, but you literally be, when you're boxing, you just must be thinking about that job all the time, what you eat, the fact that someone is going to be trying to knock you out in front of your friends and family, you know, within a few weeks or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and then also, it's not always, I guess, with boxers that you're scared of getting in there, but you've got that pressure to perform on that night, you know, on the stage as well.
Yeah, I don't feel that anyone gets in that ring worried about losing, like scared of fighting. I don't know a fighter who wouldn't fight somebody else. I don't know anybody who'd be worried about fighting anybody else. Like, they'd fight them, no matter who they are. Like, I've said it to people before, like I'm not, like, it sounds mental, but I am a bit tapped. Like, I wouldn't, like, if like someone said to me, like, say you'd beaten that Russian when I fought Kaczynski.
Yeah, Kaczynski, yeah.
Yeah. When I fought him, they said, say you beat him, and then Billy Joe never fought you, so you was world champion, would you have fought Golovkin? And I was like, yeah. Like, yeah. Like, it's done not even a question in my head. Yeah. Like, because that's what you're in the game to do. And I feel like, you know, no matter what fans would say and that's what fighters do. And I don't know any fighter really, not a proper fighter, who'd go, I don't want to fight him. I'd be worried about fighting him. You're not worried about fighting anybody, but just not what it does for you isn't always a positive thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you beat somebody but you don't perform well, you might sit on the sidelines for a while because you weren't excited, you know? So there are other things that come into play. So like you said, you've got to do all this stuff. You're dying at making a weight. Then you've got to get in the ring as well. And but meanwhile, while you're doing all this stuff, you're training 2-3 times a day, making weight. You've got a spar. You've got sparring partners coming down that you're paying to come down. So you've got to make sure they turn up at the right times. And then they've got to perform well enough. And then plus you've got to do them, and then you not get battered by them, and then because they're coming down to do a number on you, and then at the end of it all, you've got to sell thousands of pounds worth of tickets, and then you've got to get in the ring, you've got to make a weight, and then next day you've got to get in the ring against somebody who's coming to take your head off, you know. And I know that's what you're doing it for, but there's a lot there. And then on the top of that, when you look at it and you go, I got to pay the bills, I got to pay the mortgage, I got this to pay and this to pay, car insurances, all the rest of it. All these different things come into play to somebody, and this is their business. Like, it's a lot to take on, and the money isn't that good.
Yeah, and if you have a bad day at the office, it's a lot different for anyone else. Like, it's the highest highs and the lowest lows. A lot of the time, people say about boxing. Did you enjoy? You said about your love for the amateurs, and you've still got that. Did you enjoy the pros as much when you turned over? Because I still remember coming to your debut. I might be wrong, but I think it was Spence
Yeah.
in the city centre, and it was you just looked, you know, head and shoulders above anyone on that card on that night. And I just remember everyone was buzzing after that debut and just, you know, where you could go.
Yeah, it was wicked, man. Like, there, like you said, the highest highs and the lowest lows. There are moments that are just, you can't rival them. Do you know what I mean? I can't meet them, you know. But there are also moments that are horrible. Like, they're just, you don't like to, you know, and then they play on you for a long time. Do you know what I mean? And, I mean, for me, my my peak moments, the moments that I really remember and that sit with me, and not actually the fight moments and not the belts, and it's like after the fight, straight after the fight, meeting up with fans and like just having a laugh and just talking about it and reminiscing it, and that enjoyment, and knowing that you've given all these people that much enjoyment as well. That's wicked. That's next level. Like pride, everything. Like, it's a really nice feeling, that is. And I mean, I remember when I won the Commonwealth Games, not Commonwealth Games, when I won the Commonwealth title in Liverpool, and like people were messaging me saying like I'd finished the fight, done my drugs test, and then they were like, people were messaging me saying, "Where you going? What you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, come back to my hotel." And then like everybody just, like, all my fans just came to the Jury's Inn in Liverpool, right outside the arena, and singing songs in there. Beer was flying. It was like wicked. Do you know what I mean? Like, absolutely buzzing, and you stay on that high. Like, you can't sleep. Like, you're on that high for so long. It is amazing. But then, like I said, there are times where, and there's still moments that I haven't got over, and I can't get over, and I probably won't get over them. You know, they creep into the random things creep into my head at different times. I might be fast asleep, then wake up, and something will pop into my head, and I won't be able to go back to sleep again. And it's you questioning things, you know, questioning your ability, questioning whether you've done it, what you've achieved, and questioning the reasons why you achieved it, and all the rest of it. Those things come back on you, and they'll come back on you forever. Like, I couldn't see a way of me getting away from them.
Does that make it hard to retire because you still have things play on your mind where you know what you can, like, you achieved amazing feats, but I'm guessing as someone who's competitive, you can't just switch that off. So you're always thinking, I could beat him, and you know, like you could, it must be hard in that sense, or a loss. You think I could have beat him on my day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't. It's just, you do everything in the moment, don't you? Everything, the way you manage things, the way you handle things, the way you do it is all in the moment of that occasion. So, would you do it any different if you had that time again? In hindsight, I would do things differently, but it's not. It's this head on that shoulders. It's not that way around, is it? Do you know what I mean? So, I don't know. Like, there are things that that they'll always play me. They'll always eat at me, and I can't. But even if I wouldn't have had the chance to put them right even if I hadn't retired anyway. You know. So,
what things do you think you would do different if you could go back through it? Have you got things in training that you think you would have done differently?
not so much my training. I think there's business things I would have done differently. I would have managed a few things differently on that perspective. I can't go into what because I'm not,
Yeah.
but there's things that I would have handled differently in that side. And my weight, I would have moved up a lot earlier. I would have, I would have really thought about it. I think giving him more time and to think about my weight and what he was doing to me, and I'd have probably moved up and really built into the super middleweight a lot earlier in my career rather than when I did do it, which was a bit too late because you just got to take the fight that comes then, But I mean, I was struggling to make middleweight from when I won the British title. So over 2 years, nearly over 2 years time, I was hurting to make middleweight. I was making it and I was winning at it, but
you were a very big middleweight, and I remember you saying before that you had to be careful training too much strength, and you didn't want to put any muscle on because any more muscle on because then you wouldn't have been able to make the weight.
Couldn't have made it. I used to take off a lot of weight, and I didn't used to look that out of shape. I'd be a stone overweight, and I wouldn't, I'd still have a low body fat, and I wouldn't look that out of shape. I'm not saying I could have fought at light heavyweight, but I didn't look out of place at all with super middleweights. You know what I mean? And I was still making middleweight, towards the end, that took away from performance. Making the weight took away from performance, most definitely. And I wish I'd had the bottle to say that earlier. I wish I'd been able to say it. But the thing is, when you're always making it, it's very difficult because when you're always making the weight, and I never failed a weight, so you can't say I struggled so much that because I failed a weight. I never failed a weight. So when you always doing it, you say, well, I'm always making it. I'm always making it. But there's making a weight and then there's doing a weight. And for a long time, obviously, I was able to make the weight, but it was still a benefit to be at that weight. And then I feel like it just tipped the scales a little bit towards the end. I think after I beat Jack Arnfield, I should have given up the British title and looked at something else. In hindsight, I should have either given it up and moved up, or I should have given it up and looked for a different opportunity. But it's very difficult to say when you've got that Lonsdale belt in your hands, because it's an amazing, amazing belt, and the chance to be a British champion own that belt. And when you think I've done my mandatory, I'm a shoo-in now. Do you know what I mean? It's not so simple.
And you looked amazing against Jack Arnfield. I think that's probably one of your best performances. So it would have been very difficult to then go up after looking so good in that fight.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was probably was my best performance, my best championship performance. Defending the British title. Yeah, I'd say that, and even winning it as well. I'd say that, and obviously Arnfield was ranked as well. He won, he'd beaten Rose and beaten a few good names in his own right. So it was supposed to be a 50-50 fight, which on the cards it was, and obviously I beat him, hands down really, and really performed well. And so on the back of that, you're buzzing, you're thinking, I'll get this and I'll get that, and then reality hits in and you just don't do it.
Yeah, that was a great performance. So that fight, I remember watching that. Not long after we mentioned him earlier, Cursize, and you put on a great performance just until you got clipped right at I can't remember what round it was, but how was it taking that loss at the time? Because
the funny thing is, I lost him before Arnfield.
Oh, was that before? Oh, of course, yeah. You came back to defend the British.
That was before Arnfield, but like you said, I was out of boxing, but I didn't really understand. I've always been able to take a shot. I've always been able to I'd always pride myself on being able to take a shot. And I got hit by some big punches sparring and in the gym, and and in competition as well. And I always thought like, and everyone's always said to me like, you should take a dig. Do you know what I mean? And then, so I never was worried. I think that was wrong on me. Like I was a bit naive. I'd never been properly rocked by anybody. Throughout my whole time boxing, I'd never been hit and actually wobbled. Like I'd been dropped, but it'd been off balance. You know, being off balance from a punch, or you know, I'd never been hit and actually like dizzied, and I never had that feeling that I had in that fight. And then, so I probably went into the fight naively thinking, oh well, you know, he might hit hard, but I can have it. Do you know what I mean? I'll be on it. And which is stupid. It's stupid because I know anyone can knock anybody out. Now I know that. I wish I'd known that then. But, and I thought, well, if he can hit, he can hit. But I won't get caught by him. And then if I, you know, but I'll be able to fight through it, sort of thing. Obviously, I was out, and that was always one of my issues. I got too involved with people, got too willing to have a fight, and that was something that didn't leave me and never left me. But I think maturity and like knowledge and logic and like know-how, ring maturity, tells you how to deal with those sort of fighters. Like I didn't need to even punch him. Like I didn't even need to throw a shot against him. I could have just danced. He was blowing out his ass after like 4 rounds, and I thought, I've got, you know, like Tom said in the corner, you've got 2 more rounds of this, and then he's gone, and you'll just sail away with it. Don't get into trouble. Don't get into trouble. And I threw a 1-2 when I didn't throw anything, and I could have just danced off, and he hit me with that left hook, man. Yeah, the rest is history, man. But yeah, no, I mean, to be fair, I took it all right, the loss. Like, I feel like sometimes it's easier to take a loss when you get, I know it sounds bad, when you get knocked out. I got knocked out, do you know what I mean? I mean, I weren't knocked out cold, I was stopped, but it's one shot, and it was a mistake, and I knew I'd made a mistake, and I knew I had to put that right, and I don't believe that any fight I fought, if I fought him again afterwards, he wouldn't beat me. Because there's no way I'd have even stood there for him. But this is what I should have done beforehand. But because I'd never been hit by anybody, and I thought, Jesus Christ, I can't take that, or he can, you know, he'll knock me out. Like, because I never had that experience in my life, I didn't think anyone could do that to me. Like, you have this feeling of, oh, no one can hurt me. No, you know, and that's wrong. Everyone can hurt everybody, but you don't really understand that until you get hit by somebody like that. And so obviously I was boxing him, and then I got carried away in the fight. Like, I remember, like, I started to get into a bit of a rhythm, bit of a groove, and then that 5th round, like, it hit me at the start of the 5th round, early in the 5th, and I remember coming back after the 4th, and I'd had a really good 4th, and I'd started landing a few more punches, and that got me in the wrong mindset. Then I thought I can let more go, so you know, let more go, and I got nailed. And yeah, you know, and I still to this day will say that I mean, people will argue with me that I couldn't have carried on, but I still to this day and will always say could have carried on. I knew where I was, and I knew what I had to do, and I knew how to get through that round. Like, in my head, I was already thinking, I got to grab him here. I got to run. Like, you know, I already had it planned in my head, but it's just, I think planning it and doing it is a different thing. And so obviously the ref stopped it. I mean, live to fight another day, don't you? I could have carried on. You could have nailed me, and then, you know, what would he be saying then? But so the ref did the right thing, probably for me, for my health and all the rest of it. But the loss afterwards wasn't too hard to take. Losing, it was hard to take the side effects of losing, I suppose. Like, I ended up sitting on my ass. Like, I was itching to fight again, itching to put it right. I wanted to put it right. I was back in the gym within like couple of weeks. I wanted to fight again. I wanted to defend my British title, and then I had to wait. Nearly a year went by before I fought again, and it was horrible. That was horrible, and it was horrible being dismissed by people, just being dismissed by people because of this thing that had happened. But bearing in mind, I wasn't even supposed to fight him at that time. He was supposed to fight Billy Joe, but I stepped in because Billy Joe wasn't fit or healthy or whatever. Like, I don't know. But I stepped in and took the fight, and then, you know, it backfired on me. It could have obviously all ended up being brilliant, but it backfired on me. And then you start thinking, well, I took the fight, I fought the man. Okay, I got beat, but it's put me back now, financially and career-wise. It put me back loads, that did. And then you're like, what's the point of taking risks anymore? But, you know, and it's really, that was hard to swallow. That was hard to swallow. Sort of feeling like you've been cast aside.
Yeah, because you was 18-0 going into that as well, weren't you? And we talked a little bit earlier about losses on records and how now fighters are afraid to put that on the line. But that just shows you some of the politics, doesn't it, behind the scenes as well?
Yeah, definitely. And this is the problem. I think this is a big problem with the sport. Like, what's the point of being a fighter and taking a chance? You know, you get an opportunity. It's an opportunity, isn't it? Like, you get an opportunity to do something and fight for a major title, and then you take that fight and it backfires on you. Like, okay, you lose. Like, if you just took the fight and you lost, what it wouldn't like. But you'd fight another day. You know, it's obviously gonna have an effect on your career. But when it knocks you back to the point where you don't fight for a year, like, that's not what I don't feel that's doing any boxers or any boxing. It's not doing boxing a favour, you know, because you know, these fighters coming up now taking risks. Why take a risk then? You know, like, I got to give. No, Josh Kelly took a risk, didn't he, the other week against Avanesian, and it didn't pay off. You know, he got beat. He weren't ready. He weren't good enough. He weren't ready, and that's the fact. He weren't ready. I'm not saying that he couldn't do it at that level, but he's got a hell of a lot to learn, and that fight showed that. But now, if he has to sit around, not get paid, and not get fights for a long time, it's not done no favours taking that risk. You know, taking that fight, which is wrong. He should be rewarded for taking risk. And I said, you know what? We'll just knock you down. We'll drop you down a level, fight with the level and build you back up again. But this is just that's the problem with boxing. That's the problem with the business of boxing. And I don't know how long it would take for it to go in full circle. I mean, like MMA and UFC, they don't care losses and wins. It doesn't matter. If you're exciting and you're good to watch, you get fights. And I feel like it'd be good if boxing took a leaf out of that book.
I think it's a matter of time now until they do. Like, I'm a huge boxing fan, but I've kind of started looking more towards MMA just because of that reason. Like, you have like 50-50 fights all the time, and you just never know what's going to happen. Are you into MMA because of that?
I'm not really, mate. Like, I'm not. I don't get it. Like,
yeah,
I don't get it. Like, honestly, I'm not really. I don't understand what I'm looking at a lot of times, or what people are doing. And I'm, I suppose, a boxing purist in the sense that I believe in, you know, your fists, and, you know, if you're having a fight, you use your fists. So don't, you know, that's kind of the way I was brought up and the way I am. So I don't get it, but I get it why it's been so successful and why people are turning to it and why people watch it. I understand that, because fans don't care. They want to see entertainment. They want to see excitement. I don't really think fans want to see fighters punching out puddings and getting 10-0, 11-0, 12-0, you know, all the way up. Fans don't want to see that, but at the same time, I understand as a fighter, you've got to learn. You have to be able to learn. I think you've got to get the line right between learning and just beating people up. You know, there's got to be an element of risk in these fights. You can't just go in the ring with people who are just going to stand there and get beat for nothing. You know, there's got to be an element of risk. And I think I feel like Josh Kelly, for example, I'm just bringing him up. Like, I'm not digging on him, but, you know, he had fights before that where There was only one fight there, that Ray Robinson fight, where he was against somebody who was arguably equally ability, in the equal to him in ability and competition wise. Everybody else he beat was so many levels below him, and that's why he was able to do the things he was able to do in them. And then when he gets in the ring with Ray Robinson, he couldn't get away with them, but he got away with a draw. So they should have kept him at that level, really. They should have kept him competing, at that sort of a level, and see, can he get through this level? Can he, Instead, they chucked him with Avanesyan, who's beyond that level. When you look at that, logically, you say he's going to get beat by him. He's going to get beat by him. Do you know what I mean? But they could have they could have put Kelly in and around that Ray Robinson sort of level where he's getting hit back. He can't get away with his hands down, dancing around, looking pretty. He can't get away with that anymore. He's got to learn to beat these guys in a different way. And then once he's got through that level, then you can fight the Avanesyans of this world. But until you get through that level and show that you can do it at that level, I mean, and then let's face it, those fights will be entertaining. For TV and boxing fans and viewers, those fights are still going to be hell of entertaining, because it's not just one-way traffic. But like you chuck him in with the other end, and that could ruin him in the other way. We don't know if he was going to come back from the Avanesyan fight.
Yeah,
and he's too good a fighter to lose. But we might have lost him because we don't know whether mentally he'll be able to deal with that. We just don't know that.
Yeah, it's a fine line, like you say, isn't it, of balancing that sort of competitive fights. But I can imagine, because of this sort of nature of it, it's hard to get that balance, because if you could go into a 50-50 fight with someone who's not got as big name, and then you lose, and then you don't get the chance to fight against these big names. How much does a loss take out of you for your next fight? Because I just said you suffered your first loss, but you come back and had a great win against Armfield. So how do you recover to do something like that?
I think it depends on how you see the loss in your head. I think you've got to have the right mental attitude to losing. They say it's not losing, it's learning. But you can only say that if you can do that. If you can look at a fight and say, why did I lose? I feel like a lot of fighters and a lot of people in sport in general, but if they lose, if a football team loses, if a boxer, when we talk about elite level here, when people lose, so when a boxer loses, people start blaming weight issues. They start blaming trainers. They start blaming nutrition, everything else but the fighter. And I feel that the only person to blame is yourself. And I've always felt that. So when I lose, it's my fault I lost. It ain't no one else's fault. Regardless of advice I got given in corners, regardless of what I did, it's my fault. It's so the it makes, if you can take control of losing, if you can take control of the loss and own it in your own mind, then it'll make you better. But if you can't, and you go, if I turned around, if I'd lost to that Kuzidze, and I just said, he's beyond my level, or I got the weight wrong, or, well, that's not even me, but if I'd said I'm at the wrong weight, or I didn't have a long enough training camp, or the venue was all wrong for me, or if I blamed other things, if I blamed other people or other things rather than myself, you could go, it'd be easy to deal with it in a sense, because you'd be able to go, it weren't my fault, it was just it too hard, or weren't my fault, it was this, weren't my fault, it was this. As long as you're saying it weren't my fault, you're never going to get over that, and you're never going to get better. But as soon as you go, yeah, I got it wrong, I got it wrong, I know I got it wrong, for me it was easy. I got hit with that shot. I shouldn't have been standing there. I shouldn't have got hit with that shot. I shouldn't have stood still. I shouldn't have thrown a 1-2. Why did I throw a 1-2? Didn't need to. Now, you can look at that in different ways, and you could say the promoter shouldn't have put him in there. He's too early for him. He's only had 18 fights. He's not been at that level. That's world level. He's not, all this different stuff. But I never went, I don't want that fight. I should, you can say those things, but then you can also say, well, if you're going to use them as excuse, you say, well, Tommy's got to say if he wants it or not. Tommy's got to say if he does. Do you know what I mean? So I think like Josh Kelly has to, fighters have to learn to address their losses in the right sort of way and take control of them. So if they never got it right, they need to say like, I got it wrong because of this. Like, I didn't do this, or I didn't listen, or I didn't adjust my feet, or I wasted too much energy, or I mentally couldn't cope with it. Rather than, and then you can work on that personally, and you can go away, you can work on that yourself and in the gym and with psychologists or whatever it takes, you can work on that. But if you just go, like a lot of people are saying, he's at the wrong weight. Why is he still fighting? Like about Josh Kelly, what he's at the wrong weight, or people were saying that, why did they do this or why did they do that? And that's the wrong way to look at it. The way of looking at it for me is just, you have to say, you got it wrong, and you're going to put it right. And then if you say that and you can approach it like that, then you can get over it. And I've always done that. I've always been able to get over losing because I've always done that. I've always said, like, what did I do wrong? Ain't nobody else in there getting punched, it's me. So what did I do wrong? And I think if you can do that, you can get past it. But a lot of people looked at the easy route of blaming other people. Oh, he told me this, he told me that, they told me that. And then it makes it easier for you to swallow and you to face up to people around you asking questions. Because your mate goes to you, why did you do that? And you, he told me to. Oh, he told me to. He told me to. So then your mates all go, oh, yeah, that's fair enough. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. But in your own head, you ain't never going to get past that.
Yeah, that makes sense, because obviously then you're accountable and you take ownership of it, like you say. And then I suppose blaming someone else makes you feel better, like for that time, but then it's not helping anything going forward. So yeah, I completely get that. Are you proud of your career, Tommy? Because obviously you won the British championship and the British title, and I feel like when you're that competitive, it can be hard to sort of say, yeah, I'm proud of what I did.
Yeah. Not really, mate. Nah.
Really?
Nah. No, it's hard, mate. Like, it's hard to say. I know what I've achieved is big. Like, I know I've achieved big things. Like, I know I've, British champion, Commonwealth champion, and fought WBO titles, and I know what I've achieved is big achievements to everybody else. But when I look at it, there's always things that I'm not happy with, and there's always things that I'm not, and I'm proud of being a British champion, but then I should have been more. Like, you always look at it and you think, I should have been more. I should have owned that Lonsdale belt, or I should have fought for another title. I should have been European champion. Or, like, I could have. I know I could have. Like, and so when you've got that attitude of, I know I could have done better. Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult. I'm not. I don't brag about it. Like, I'm not. I don't talk about it a lot. I don't sing and dance about it. Like, I'm not. I'm happy with it in my own head. Like, and I'm happy to talk about it with people, but it's not something, I don't know, like, there's still quite a lot of frustration there, really, with things that happened and my losses. There's this frustration at my losses and why I lost, and annoyance, say. So I find that hard to deal with, and so I'm probably not proud of it. No, not really.
See, it's a shame, but that's why I asked it in that way, because I just thought, knowing you and how competitive you are, that it's hard for a lot of boxers with that kind of mindset to be proud. But you should be, like, British champion, Commonwealth champion. But I know what you're saying. It's because what, and a lot of people know what else you did, behind closed doors. I've come to some of the sparrings and seen what you've done there. People, what you're capable of. But yeah, you should be proud for sure.
Yeah, everyone tells me that. It's hard, mate. Like, it's kind of like I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't.
I think it's that
Like,
competitive.
I'm happy to say, like I done what I done and whatever. But yeah, I'm not really. Yeah, I think it'll be a while before I'm proud of it. I think it'll be quite a while in my life before I'm like really proud of it. Like I don't really. I haven't made even made a big thing about it in my house and with my family and stuff. It's not really like made a big thing of it. It's just kind of I did it and I was happy I did it and everything, but I never really my family are like that though. It's not a song. We don't make a song and dance about anybody. It's not like no one bowls over for you. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, it's what I did. So it's not. I don't know. Maybe I need people to kiss my ass a bit more. I don't know.
You'll have to tell them.
Yeah.
But obviously, it's still raw as well, isn't it? I mean, it's not that long ago that all this happened, so it completely makes sense. Before rounding it up, I wanted to ask you a few sparring stories. Like I say, I saw you sparring, and I don't know if other fans out there are the same, but I just love that side of it. I saw you when I was training at Eastside a few times, and you come down. And I tell you what, as a fan, I used to love watching people sparring there. A bit sad, really, as I'm like training, I'd be watching that. But who's the hardest hitter that you faced in sparring? Is there anyone that comes to mind? I know
in sparring.
Yeah, because I know you've sparred the likes of Callum Smith.
Yeah.
I think you obviously fought Fowler in the amateurs. I don't know if you sparred him as well.
I did in the amateurs, but do you know what though? The hardest. I'm gonna get this is giving a bit like he's not the hardest puncher. He's not, but the hardest I've been hit in sparring. Do you know what? It's Liam Williams, mate.
Okay, yeah.
He's a big puncher. Like, he's a big puncher. And I did a lot of sparring with Liam. A lot of good sparring with Liam. And obviously, he's got his world title shot now, which I'm really happy for him. But I remember once he hit me. Like, I've been hit by, like, I've sparred with Kell Brooks, Callum Smiths, I'm going to tell you who hits hard, who's not really known. Like, and obviously did the rounds as not a journeyman because he come to win, but Chela Renda.
From Warsaw.
Nah, he's from Peterborough.
Okay,
but
yeah.
He was one of John Pegg's, but he kind of just like, I think did he win the English title eventually? I don't know. Anyway, he can hit hard, but he's not got like a loads of knockouts on the record because technically there's improvements need to be there to get, but he can punch hard. He's heavy-handed. I think even Matthew Macklin said he's the hardest puncher he's sparred.
That's interesting.
But yeah, the hardest I've been hit sparring would be by Liam Williams. I mean, and he didn't drop me. It's not like he dropped me or anything, and I thought, fuck, do you know what I mean? But he's hit me hard, and he's hit me hard a couple of times, and I thought, yeah, that was a good dig. Like, do you know what I mean? That was but no one's hit me as hard as that because it's nobody.
Really?
Nobody, mate.
I'll tell you what as well, he was really short and stocky, wasn't he? And I bet there's part of me when I was watching that, going back to that, is the height difference. Sometimes I feel like if you're that much taller, it's not as much of an advantage. No,
it does make things awkward, but he was juiced out his bracket anyway. Like,
he got arrested not long after for something to do with the Georgian mafia, didn't he?
Yeah.
Nuts.
Yeah, I think he's still in prison over in America or something. 20 years he's got something like that. I don't know, but yeah, no. I would say Liam probably hit me not that he could punch the hardest, but hit me the hardest.
I think I know who you're saying now because we spoke about it already. Who was the most elusive and hardest to hit in sparring? Did that stay as Frankie Gavin?
The best Frankie, yeah. The best Frankie was better than, like, obviously I fought. My last fight was against Lerone Richards, and I sparred Lerone. Lerone's slippery as a fish, man. Like he's the king of negativity. He's great on the back foot. He's so hard to hit. But Frankie was better. Like
Yeah.
Frankie at his best was the hardest to hit, 100%. But he made you pay as well. Frankie would make you pay for it.
Yes.
He was the best, without a doubt.
Some of the angles that he'd set up, because I watched him at the gym when you guys were doing the public sparring, and some of the angles he sets up and the traps are ridiculous. Who's the biggest trash talker in sparring? Is there anyone who gives it a little bit before you get in?
Mate, Terry Carruthers, man.
Yeah, you know what? That's who Frankie was sparring there as well, and he's funny, isn't he, Terry?
Mate, Terry used to take a piss, man, all the time in sparring, and you'd be like, mate, I'm hitting you. What, like I like Terry. I used to have a lot of time for him, really, but like, yeah, he used to talk shit in sparring, man.
Did you have a biggest rival in sparring? Anyone who, whether it was just competitive rounds or maybe, I don't know, there's a little bit of spite.
Bit of needle. Bit of needle.
Yeah, bit of needle.
Nah, not really. I mean, I never really. No, not really. I suppose it's weird because amateurs, it was anyone from any other gym. Anyone from any other gym that inspired you, like you'd want to put it over them. But then when you turn pro, obviously you're all kind of like you employ people to come and inspire you. So like it's more neutral. Do you know, like you're working, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they become your colleagues. Only you're throwing punches at each other, which is nuts. But that's what it is, isn't it?
It's a bit different then. To be fair, me and Frankie had some. I mean, because we sparred so much, like all the time. Like not needle, but there was always a competitiveness there between the two of us sparring. And then I remember when I used to go up and spar. When I used to spar, this is a while ago. I was still amateur, but I used to go up and spar when Frankie was in Manchester, and like Ronnie Heffron was at the gym. And obviously Ronnie was the same age as me and done the amateurs as well. Obviously won the ABAs and that. So there was always a bit of a bit of needle there. Like kind of wanted to get over on the other one, and he would do this. He'd want to get it over on. Do you know what I mean? There was always a bit of that there then. But and Eubank, mate, sparring Eubank. He was a dickhead, mate.
I can't believe that it's took us this long to bring him up. I know you've been asked a million times about him, but obviously you had that fight scheduled, and he dropped out with I think he injured his elbow or something.
He got tennis elbow, mate. Yeah.
And that would have been a good fight. I was looking forward to that. What do you think now in hindsight of that fight, watching his career? Because I was skeptical whether he would be able to hang with some of the British level guys, but he did really well against the likes of Spike O'Sullivan and Blackwell, didn't he?
Yeah, but it's what they bring to the table, though, isn't it? Like you got to look at like I'm not being disrespectful to Nick Blackwell or Spike O'Sullivan now, but they hadn't got the boxing. They're not fleet-footed boxers. They couldn't box on the back foot, like they stand in front of you. Spike hits hard, so if he hits you, you know about it, but stands in front of you. But yeah. I know because I went down and sparred him. I went down and sparred him, and I boxed his head off. I boxed circles around him. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not saying, because sparring is so different to fighting, and I'm not saying that's exact how the fight would have gone. But I believe if I had fought him at the time when the fight was made, I never think that he's made middleweight the best. He's not been as dangerous at middleweight as he is at super middleweight. But yeah, I still do this. I still believe I would have outboxed him. But for me, it wouldn't have been about. It would be about the mental approach. He messes you up before even they're in the ring. Like It wouldn't be about doing the actual, like, boxing wise. I like boxing.
Did he
I'm
do
not
that?
really.
Did he do that for sparring as well? Then was he playing any mind games before that?
Nah, not really. Just a knob. Like, just, like, it's not. He just, like, boxing's hard enough, so you want to have a bit of a laugh and a joke when you're not punching each other. Do you know what I mean? But he used to get down there and he'd get in the ring. He'd have to put his CD on. Everything goes to his time frame. He don't talk to anybody. Like, he just he just like, mate, this is hard enough. Do you know what I mean? Like, and you're making it harder. Like, why be like that sort of thing? But yeah, but he gets you thinking, like, in the build up to fights. Eubanks, they're just clever in how they do it. They're just clever in how they do it. Like, he doesn't. I don't even know that he means to do it, but they're just so self-obsessed and self-absorbed and arrogant. They don't think about anybody else or do anything to anybody else's time frame or do anything that for anybody else. It's all done for them. So he, like, they get you thinking about them and thinking, what's he doing? Why is he talking about him? Why is he not talking about me? I mean, he's fighting me. Why is he going on about fighting Golovkins and fighting James DeGales and all the rest of it? And when you're like, he's got me next, and then he's talking about fighting Billy Joe Saunders again. And so you go into the gym going, he's not even talking about me, man. He's not even. Is he fighting me? Is he even training? Is he even doing? Why is he being a dick? Like, is the fight going to happen? Is the fight not going to happen? And then, so before you know it, you're wasting too much energy, mental energy, on him rather than just going and thinking, sod him, I'll do what I want. Do you know what I mean? I mean, to start with, I'm not going to lie, like, it was awkward. Like, I found it hard in camp. At the very start of when the fight was first made with him, I found it hard to mentally get over it, like mentally get over these things. Like, I had been scheduled for 4 press conferences with him, and we'd booked train tickets. We got ready to go to 4 press conferences, and every single one he didn't turn up. And in the end, he got fined. And so I'm getting pissed off, and he's not even thinking about me. He's just doing things in his own mindset, his own time, his own thing, all the rest of it. But then in the end, the only way I could get over it and all the rest of it, and get rid of any sort of thought of Eubank and focus on myself, was I got someone else to manage my Twitter. I just said, just sod this, man. I ain't looking at it no more. Social media's terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible, man.
Yeah.
So I got rid of it. I got rid of it completely and got someone else to run it while I was training. And then I started to see I was, like, better then. I got more, I was better then, and I was flowing then. But and then obviously the fight never happened in the end anyway. But yeah, it makes things awkward without even a fight happening.
Yeah, and I guess that's might be part of his game then, with the mind games of all these little things that he's doing. Would you advise younger fighters to maybe stay away from the social media? Like these guys turning over pro now.
Well, the thing is nowadays, by the way, mate, I'm just telling you, my phone's got 5% battery, so it's gonna go in a minute. But
no worries, mate.
You've got to learn to manage it. I wouldn't say stay away from it, because you need it. You need it to build your profile and sell tickets, all the rest of it. But I wouldn't say stay away from that sense. But you've got to learn to manage it. You've got to learn to deal with it, how to deal with it. Take it with a pinch of salt. It's not real life. You know what I mean? Like, which is hard. It's hard to do. Like, it's hard to do. Like, I couldn't do it when I was doing it. I could manage it very well. But, and I didn't get that much abuse on it, really. But you do get, even if you're the nicest person in the world, you get horrible people on there. But you've got to learn to manage it. So if you can just take it with a pinch, I think since I've been working on site with a bunch of lads, I could have managed social media a hell of a lot better, because you just realise it's not real life, man. It's a piss take. Just take the piss. Just go on there and joke, and don't take it so seriously. But it's hard when that's your career to be able to do that. It's hard.
Just very quickly before leaving, how have you transitioned into working now and coming away from boxing? Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, I like my work. I like what I'm doing. I like being a spark. It's it's work, mate. Pays the bills. I'm earning all right money at it, and living all right. Like, seeing the kids home every night. So, it's good, mate. I think I'm busy, so it's all right because I'm busy. I think if I couldn't sit in an office. I like to be out and about, which is what I'm doing. I'm on site and working hard, so I'm physical. I like that. So yeah, I feel like I've adjusted into it quite well. Really, I feel like I've settled into it quite well.
Awesome, mate. I just want to thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate it, and it's been great catching up with you. It's been a long time. Where can people find you? I know you just mentioned social media there, but you've got your own podcast.
It's gone.
Oh, no. Right, so just to round up, as you can see, like Tommy warned me that he had 5% battery, and I carried on rambling on. But big thank you to Tommy for coming on, former British and Commonwealth title holder, and he's now got a podcast, Southwest Boxing Media. Have a look at Tommy_Langford1 on Instagram. He posts about it on there as well. You can find him on Twitter if you search Tommy Langford. And yeah, go and check out his podcast. Big thank you to Tommy Langford.